This week I'm recording directly into the microphone, trying to test some things with the audio, see if it sounds better. But let me know what you think. Do you think the microphone in the frame is worth it for better audio, or do you prefer the microphone out of the frame and the audio is just okay? Let me know. This week we're going to be talking about my next version of ZER0ED. It's going to be ZER0ED 1.2, and I'll show you some of the code, some of the behind the scenes, some of the thinking process that went into this update. Next week I'll be releasing the first test flight build of this game. So if you're on test flight, if you do like to beta test games, you'll be able to play it a little early, and then hopefully by the middle to end of August I'll be releasing the public build of 1.2 to everyone on the App Store. So that's the plan. Let's roll the intro and then we'll dive into some code. So first, I like to start all of my plans. This is kind of an insight into how I plan my game development. So I always try and start with like one or two lines, like what is this update about? What does it need to achieve? For 1.2, the main goal is to improve the gameplay and replay value of ZER0ED. To do that, I'm going to be adding new achievements. I'm going to be separating the leaderboard for the various difficulties, improving some art, and then the biggest thing is I'm going to be improving how the power-ups work. That's what I'm going to show you a little bit of the behind the code today to just give you an idea of that. I also added a new difficulty level of endless, which just doesn't end. You play until you lose. Let's take a look at some code. The first thing that I did was create an endless mode. To do that, what I did was I just ended up bypassing when I check for a win. Normally we check for 2,500 points in your score, and then if you get that, as long as you're not on the insane difficulty, then you would get a win. And then if you are on insane difficulty, it would take until 3,000 points. So really, I'm just bypassing this. So that was pretty easy. There's a lot of other things that happened just that I had to clean up, like how the transitions happened, different mechanics for how the score is calculated, and things that are displayed on the game over screen for endless. Because you can never get a win, a lot of the messaging on the end screen was all about how close you are to a win, but on endless you're never going to get a win, right? You're always just going for a high score. So I'm changing some of the wording around that. Overall, that was a pretty easy thing to implement. The other relatively easy change that I did was for the power-ups section. So with power-ups, the first thing I decided was that the cloner and the 2x points power-ups, the way they work in version 1.1 is you acquire them, and then the player has to tap on the icons in the lower right hand and lower left hand corners to activate them. As I was playing this, I felt like I never really used these power-ups. I found it difficult to plan the use and really just not very fun to use. So what I did was I changed the way the power-up works. When those two power-ups are acquired, they just trigger their effect instantly. So you can see that here if we're a cloner power-up. So basically, if we're acquiring a power-up that is of the cloner type, then for all of the level targets, we're just going to reset the state and we're going to set it equal to clone target's value. For the double points, again, we're just going to start the double point timer and set the has started boolean to true, which then it will start counting down, and as soon as that is expired, it will set that has started to false, and everything will go back to normal. So that's pretty easy. The other ones work just as they did before, except that I've added the ability to stack them. So in version 1.1, you can only ever have one negative survival or one fuel survival active at a time. In version 1.2, you'll be able to stack these. So you'll be able to have multiple extra fuel tanks or multiple times below zero that you'll be able to survive. It does make the game a little bit easier to play because now you're able to acquire things and then use them more often. And to counteract that, because I felt like it was actually way too easy, especially on endless mode, what I've done is first I've made power-ups more rare. And second, the big thing is that after you get to a certain certain number of points, you'll actually stop being presented the power-up resource. All right, so I had thought about this when I had first created ZER0ED, and I thought no one would even attempt this. My brother sent me a text message the other day and said, what happens if I keep just adding the resource to the target because it just keeps going up and up and up? And I said, yeah, I never really thought that use case would come into play, and I didn't think I felt like it would be kind of a boring way of gameplay. So to make sure that people don't do that, because there is actually one exploit that you can do by just adding all the time, and that is that you could just keep cycling bonus resources and 5s over and over and over again, and that would just inflate your score. What I've done is I've just capped it. So now if the target gets greater than 50, then we're just going to set the target value to 50. I'm thinking of, because I want to make sure that people aren't just, like I said, cycling the for 5s and for bonus resources. What I want to do is probably create some sort of negative effect when you have a really high target. The other big thing that I've been working on is the stats that get reported to the game and that are calculated. So if we go over to my stats menu, you can see here, so this is still a work in progress. I'm trying to create a few more stats so that people can track them. And what I want to do is make this page filterable by difficulty. So if you're playing on easy, it doesn't affect your stats for insane or vice versa, right? Of course, endless, technically according to the game, you're always going to lose. No matter how high of a score you get, it will end with you dying. So that would negatively affect your win percentage. So I'm going to try and make this page filterable by difficulty. And for endless, obviously, win percentage doesn't really matter. So we're going to have to come up with some other stats for this page. I've also added a new way your final score is calculated. The game, you earn points as you score zeros and get bonuses and stuff. On the normal difficulties, when you get to a certain amount of points in your game, you win. After that, additional bonuses are calculated depending on difficulty. That's how it currently works right now. So what I wanted to do was make this a little bit more clear and add a little bit more into how this final score is calculated. That way, the leaderboards become a little more dynamic. It's not just about getting a win. It's also about kind of optimizing your gameplay for more bonuses and better power-up management. So you can see here what I'm doing is we take your score that you've earned, and then we're also calculating how many times did you actually go below zeros. If we're going to let you get extra power-ups that will prevent you from dying, then how many times did you actually die in the game? And if you did do that, then we're going to subtract from your score. Lose points for using your fuel tanks. Every time you create a 7, you're also going to lose points. And then reward. Have these power-ups remaining, so however many you didn't use, that will add some to your score, as well as fuel tanks remaining. And then anytime you create a 5. And then, of course, we still have our difficulty bonus. So if you're playing on a harder difficulty, it's just a multiplier where you're going to get more points for playing on hard and even more for playing on insane. And then your final score is displayed. So this is a way of just making the final score and the leaderboards a little bit more dynamic for the players to play and kind of compete against each other. So that's a look at some of the changes coming in 1.2. Again, I'm hoping to have the test flight beta for this version of the game available next week, and there'll be a link down below for you to sign up for that. If everything goes well, I'll have the game available for everyone on the App Store by the end of August. That's my internal goal. I may not have all the changes that you saw in this video by then. I am just one person and I have a full-time job, but that's, I'm going to get as far as I can, and then anything that I don't do in 1.2 will just happen in another update in the future. So I hope you liked this kind of casual deep dive into ZER0ED. If you did, click that like button, and if you're not subscribed, of course, make sure you subscribe to the channel, and I will see you next week in another video.